Are you trying to establish your brand as a thought leader? Start a podcast, invite industry experts to be guests on your show, and watch your brand become the prime resource for decision makers in your industry. Learn more at sweetfishmedia.com.
You're listening to B2B Growth, a daily podcast for B2B leaders. We've interviewed names you've probably heard before, like Gary Vaynerchuk and Simon Sinek, but you've probably never heard from the majority of our guests. That's because the bulk of our interviews aren't with professional speakers and authors. Most of our guests are in the trenches leading sales and marketing teams. They're implementing strategy. They're experimenting with tactics. They're building the fastest growing B2B companies in the world. My name is James Carberry. I'm the founder of Sweetfish Media, a podcast agency for B2B brands, and I'm also one of the co-hosts of this show. When we're not interviewing sales and marketing leaders, you'll hear stories from behind the scenes of our own business. We'll share the ups and downs of our journey as we attempt to take over the world. Just kidding. Well, maybe. Let's get into the show. Welcome back to B2B Growth. I'm Logan Lyles with Sweetfish Media. I'm joined today by Matt Duffy. He is the Chief Marketing Officer over at Pixability. Matt, how's it going today, man?
Good, Logan. Good to talk to you.
Absolutely. I am really excited to talk to you, Matt, because you're going to be talking about something that we've been leaning into over the last couple months here at Sweetfish, and that is video. We're going to be talking about YouTube, both organic and paid, and some new opportunities when it comes to lead generation and exposure for B2B brands, and not just top of funnel brand awareness. But before we get into all things using video more efficiently for your B2B brand, Matt, I would love for you to give people a little bit of background on yourself, what you and the team at Pixability are up to, and why you're the guy talking about this today.
Yeah, sure thing, Logan. So I'm a B2B marketer myself. I've been doing B2B marketing for about 20 years now, so I'm a veteran. And Pixability is a video advertising software company. And we focus mostly on YouTube, but we also work with Facebook, Instagram, and a lot of the connected TV platforms like Amazon Fire and Roku and Hulu and so forth. And what I've been seeing is a nice trend. We work with a lot of B2C companies, but I've been seeing a nice trend of more B2B advertisers moving into YouTube and sort of embracing video and what it can do for them. So love to chat about that today. I think it's a very cool trend to be watching.
Yeah, absolutely. As you and I were just talking offline, I was just excited to pick your brain. And so I'm glad I get to pick your brain and share it with listeners. So let's jump right in from there, Matt. Let's talk a little bit about, you mentioned YouTube. So let's talk about YouTube for B2B brands. You know, before we get into advertising and managing your paid spend on YouTube, you've mentioned to me that a lot of B2B brands are missing some opportunity in just better management of their organic exposure and their own YouTube channel. Can you talk to us a little bit about what you're seeing there?
Yeah, definitely. You know, one of the things, most B2B marketers have search as one of the things that they focus on, whether it's paid search or SEO for their website. What a lot of B2B marketers don't realize or miss the boat on is the fact that YouTube is the second biggest search engine after Google. So in the same way that you want your site to be optimized and you want to drive traffic to your site through paid search on Google, there are things you should be doing on YouTube as the second biggest search engine in the world to make sure when folks search for products or solutions on YouTube that your brand comes up or your products come up. And this is something that a lot of B2B marketers miss. A lot of B2B marketers kind of think of YouTube as, well, it's just where I store my videos. I just kind of leave it there as a library of videos, but I don't really focus on it or optimize keywords on it. But that's exactly what they should be doing. And we've been working with a lot of B2B marketers that are doing that and seeing great results from doing that. And I'd be happy to give some specific tips on what they should be doing there, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I would love for you to give some examples there. I know that we in the past have been one of those guilty parties there of just kind of leaving the YouTube channel. I imagine that making sure that you just kind of put some fresh paint on it, make sure that it's branded well, that you've got, links back to your homepage and stuff like that is kind of step one. But then you mentioned optimizing for keywords, tagging your videos, those sorts of things.
take us through some of the, okay, if I'm raising my hand right now and saying we've neglected our YouTube channel and maybe I've got some time to prep for 2020, what are the first 3 or 4 action items a B2B marketing team should take to kind of refresh and just take those first steps to up their game on their organic YouTube channel?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's a long list of things that you can do, but just at a very high level, to your point, the first things that a B2B marketer should do is just first check whether even a search for your brand on YouTube, that you come up high in a search for your brand, which isn't always the case. Sometimes your brand name is a common word. We actually work with Puma. Granted, they're a B2C company, but when you search for the word Puma, there are videos that have Puma the cat that come up, et cetera. And there are other brands where, with Adidas, if you search for Adidas, where it might be, a rap video that mentions Adidas, et cetera, might come up ahead of Adidas videos. So first thing as a B2B brand is just, do you come up first in terms of brand search? The next thing is keywords, do some searches for keywords that you think folks might be looking for. I know that I'm not just a B2B marketer, but I also buy B2B software all the time. And sometimes I look for videos on YouTube for, I'd like to find a HubSpot video or a Salesforce video on how a certain function of theirs works. So make sure, do some of those searches yourself on YouTube and see if your videos are coming up for that. If you have videos that answer those questions, you want them optimized for that. And there are some, simple ways to address SEO on your channel. And there's some sort of more complex ways, but basically, you should think of your YouTube channel as like your website, and you want to be maximizing keyword descriptions of your videos and maxing out on the number of words you can use, but also using the right words so that when those searches happen, you come up. So there are things you should do around your publishing schedule that are to optimize how your YouTube channel behaves, and then there are things you can do once people get to your channel to improve engagement. There are things you can do in terms of end screen elements you can add to your videos that then drive people to other videos on your channel. There are really nice ways you can pretty up your channel with nice thumbnails that have your branding in it so that when those videos appear somewhere else, they show your branding. There are things you can do with captions to improve discoverability. There are lots of different things you can do. But again, I think as a B2B marketer, the first thing you should do is just see how you're doing in terms of keyword searches, if you're coming up with the videos that you want to come up with from your brand in your channel.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I've seen, you can use tools like rev.com to transcribe videos, and they have a plugin right into YouTube. So I've seen some of those things on the background. The thumbnails piece is something that our founder, James, posted on LinkedIn about here recently. As we've been doing more video, we've realized the importance of thumbnails. And so if you got someone who regularly appears in your video, like a podcast host or someone like that, take some time, do a quick little photo shoot with them to get some headshots so that you can vary up, that title or something like that, because you don't want this random, screen grab from the middle of your video with someone, just like when you pause your TV, right? It's always right. With someone with their eye half open and their mouth in a weird spot, and you end up coming back laughing at it. Doesn't give the best first brand impression. So the thumbnails piece that you mentioned there, I think is really important to think about. Hey everybody, Logan here. Quick shout out to today's growth sponsor. Talkable helps e-commerce companies grow through targeted referral programs that leverage insights from your customers' behavior. Join others who've hit their sales goals and seen a 10x ROI on their referral programs. Talkable lets you segment your offers and personalize your messaging to different audiences, like new versus repeat customers or by geolocation. Talkable also easily integrates with the rest of your tech stack, having a low impact on site speed and navigation, creating a seamless user experience while helping you drive more sales. Learn more at growth.talkable.com. All right, let's get back to the show. So let's transition, Matt, from organic YouTube optimization to advertising opportunities. As you and I were talking a little bit offline, you mentioned some of the myths that B2B marketers have about targeting and other things when it comes to advertising on YouTube. Can you speak to those, maybe dispel them a little bit, and speak to some of the opportunities when it comes to paid search or paid exposure on YouTube for B2B brands?
Yeah, sure. I mean, most B2B marketers love platforms like LinkedIn that have rich title and company information on prospective customers. And I love LinkedIn marketing as well. But I think the myth is that you can't really target or reach certain types of B2B targets in YouTube. And we have a lot of B2B clients that are having a lot of success with it based on some of the ways you can target in YouTube. One of the very cool things you can do is because YouTube is connected to Google, obviously, and to Google search, you can target anyone based on searches they did. So if you're, Salesforce.com and you're selling a CRM solution, you can serve your video ads to anyone who's ever searched for a CRM solution in Google. And so obviously apply that to any other product category. And you can target YouTube video ads to anyone who's done certain searches on YouTube. So even if you want to do a small amount of advertising on YouTube and just advertise to those people who have searched for specific terms that are directly relevant to you, I think it's a smart thing to do. The other thing you can do, which is very cool, is you can target ads on YouTube to people that have downloaded certain apps. You can also target ads to places that people have been, but that's a little bit less relevant for B2B marketers. But in terms of app downloads, that's certainly relevant. I know a lot of B2B marketers that target folks that have downloaded apps from competitors or even downloaded some of their own apps or downloaded apps that they feel like might be directly relevant to what they're selling. And so between the custom intent targeting, which is targeting people who have certain intent that they've shown through searching, and custom affinity targeting, which is affinity towards certain topics based on apps they've downloaded, places they've been, et cetera. There's a lot of really good targeting that you can do on YouTube to produce a good result.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Can you speak at all, Matt, to the content? Because I had AJ Wilcox on the show before. He's just the master at LinkedIn ads, and he talked about as you mentioned, LinkedIn's targeting is great from a B2B perspective. You kind of peeled the curtain back on some of the targeting that we can do with YouTube, but what AJ was talking about on LinkedIn is where a lot of people fall flat is the creative, is the type of content that they're putting in front of folks. To me, I've seen, I don't know how well they're performing, but I'm constantly talking about the meeting owl, the video camera for conference rooms. I see those YouTube ads all the time, and they're funny, they're engaging, they're almost skit-like, those sorts of things. So whether it's funny or other ways that you see B2B brands putting the right sort of content out, because the targeting is nothing if you don't have the right sort of offer or the right sort of content to put in front of folks. So can you speak to maybe some examples or some recommendations for B2B brands there when it comes to the content of their advertising on YouTube?
Yeah, definitely. And it's funny you mentioned Owl. That's a company nearby us here in Boston. And my old boss is the CEO of that company. It's a very cool company, and they do some very cool YouTube creative. Yeah, I think the biggest trend we're seeing in YouTube creative, whether it's B2B advertisers or B2C advertisers, is a trend towards creative that's not highly produced, not costly. It can be just a customer interview that you do yourself at a desk. It can be very user-generated feel content is working really, really well on YouTube for both B2B and B2C. So that's the advice I give B2B marketers who are a little bit worried. We don't have this amazing video creative with, a movie star and highly produced content. I think any content that gets at what your customers might be interested in, whether it's hearing from other folks that are using your solutions or any other kind of user-generated piece, is working really well. The other thing I'll mention that I neglected to mention when talking about targeting is there are a few other tools for targeting your ads that work really well for B2B. And one is you can retarget. So you can retarget any folks that have been to your YouTube channel before or have been to your website before. So that's obviously a great thing. We do that ourselves. If anyone that visits our Pixability site will get retargeted with an ad on YouTube when they go to YouTube. So that's a cool thing to do. And it's usually not something that costs a lot unless your website visitor scale is gigantic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then the other quick thing to do that's super cool for B2B is on YouTube, you can target ads to first-party lists. So if I'm a company that has a list of customers or a list of targeted potential customers, that I can use that list and I can either target those people when they go on YouTube, or I can also create a lookalike audience to those people and target a lookalike audience to your own to your own first party list. So that's another really cool thing. So regardless, it's sort of a long way of answering your question about content, but content can be very low cost, user generated content. I think the relevance is what's important, but targeting to me is the first real key step.
Yeah, absolutely. So we go from targeting the type of content, which now I'm looking forward to seeing some of your YouTube ads, because obviously I went to the Pixability site to prep for this interview. So I'll get a chance to see some of that now.
That's right.
When I'm doing my YouTube searching later tonight, usually for the Sports Center Not Top 10. That's one of my guilty pleasures on YouTube, but I digress. So let's go to kind of the next step, Matt. We're going from targeting to the content to measurement. Let's talk about, really using this as a lead gen tactic and your conversion tracking from YouTube. Talk to us a little bit about what you see B2B brands doing successfully in the next step.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, so the first thing I'll say is some B2B advertisers don't use YouTube because they think it's just brand lift. And my first argument for them would be brand lift should matter to you. Every YouTube campaign that we run, we have a brand lift study attached to it where we track the brand lift that campaign drove for that advertiser. So as a B2B marketer, even if you didn't get any conversions, any leads, any site traffic from it, it would be valuable for me as a B2B marketer to know I ran this YouTube campaign. The folks that saw this ad show this much higher brand awareness than those who didn't, and this much more intent to work with us. So that's one first thing that I always tell people in terms of measuring their campaigns on YouTube as a B2B marketer. But then to your point, what most B2B marketers care most about is conversions. So there are lots of ways you could do conversions. On the brand lift side, we work with Carbonite. They're a great B2B company that we work with in their agency, Norbella in Boston here. They cared mostly about brand awareness. So for them, we ran these brand awareness studies that you can run right through Google. And they saw an 18% brand awareness lift from their YouTube campaign, and they were thrilled. That's what they were looking for. For other clients that we work with, sometimes it's conversions. And the way you do that, it's pretty simple. It's what you'd expect as a B2B marketer. You can just use conversion pixels, and you can put those pixels on landing pages, and anyone that sees your YouTube ads and then lands on the landing page and converts, you can see that in your AdWords, in your Google Ads reporting. And so that's what a lot of B2B marketers do. Another thing to track, obviously, is a lot of B2B marketers are very interested in growing their YouTube channel subscribers. And we had one company called Mouser. They're a huge electronics parts B2B company. And they, from their YouTube advertising, they wanted to grow their YouTube channel subscriber base. And they were able to grow it by over 60% just from running the YouTube ads that they ran, and that they tracked very easily. And that was another good thing you can track. So there are, the moral of the story, there are things, measurable things that you can do on YouTube as a B2B marketer, both lead gen, site traffic, YouTube channel growth, and of course, brand lift.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that you didn't just skip over the top of the funnel. I have so many conversations with B2B marketers offline away from this podcast, in addition to these conversations about how they can use a podcast or a podcast series in their own marketing flywheel. And we have a very frank conversation about, where podcasting often sits. It feeds their other lead gen strategies, and there are things that you can do, but primarily it's that brand awareness. And we talk about, the importance of that. And I think there are a lot of B2B marketing thought leaders out there that have more clout and more experience than myself that are saying that as well. So it's cool to hear you echo that from a YouTube perspective, because I'm having those conversations from a podcast perspective on a daily basis as well. So I love that, Matt. So let's talk real quick before I let you go, Matt. You and I were chatting offline, and I happened to mention that I recently changed my primary TV service from DirecTV, one of the traditional satellite providers, to YouTube TV. And in my opinion, I think I don't talk to a lot of B2B marketers that are thinking about connected TVs and streaming apps for their own advertising, but there could be some greenfield opportunity to kind of get out in front as that pendulum continues to swing to streaming apps being more and more the way that we consume what's been considered traditional TV, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, There's a stat that's pretty startling that in the next 2 years, 17 million people are going to leave traditional TV watching for connected TV streaming services, like you said. And I think the interesting thing for B2B marketers is there are going to be a lot less expensive ways to advertise on television screens than there ever were in the past, which will mean B2B marketers who never before even thought about TV advertising will be doing it sometimes without even knowing it, but also sometimes intentionally, because the budgets will be much more reasonable. I think I just did a webinar with the head of YouTube TV at Google, Anish Katakaran. He's a great guy. And we talked about that the viewing of YouTube on television screens, TV screens is the fastest growing place to watch just regular YouTube. There's YouTube on TV, or YouTube TV, like you said, which you subscribe to, which is a great service that advertisers can advertise on. But then there's also just watching YouTube on a TV screen if you have a connected TV. And that YouTube on TV is the fastest growing device for YouTube right now. So as a B2B marketer, you can do a campaign on YouTube and you can target people. You can target just TV watchers if you want. You can target just the television device, or you could target all devices, but just have your report broken out to see how your ads performed on TV screens versus on other devices. So it's a very interesting thing. Now, obviously, also, there are lots of other connected TV platforms we advertise, we work on for our clients, whether they're B2B or B2C. And we're seeing some really good results from advertisers that run on Amazon Fire, which is, Amazon Fire Stick makes your TV a connected TV. And we can use all the data that Amazon has access to around their audiences about, what people have bought, what they've searched for, even what cars they drive. It's amazing. It's amazing the data they have. So yeah, I think CTV, connected TV it's actually going to be a big piece of B2B marketing in coming years. Maybe not this year. And this year it's already becoming big for B2C, but I think B2B advertisers are going to start to actually be TV advertisers in the very near future. It's going to be super interesting.
Yeah, I love hearing about just kind of looking at those disruptive technologies and the changes in user behavior, especially in B2B, where so many marketers I talk to are just trying to break through the noise. Sometimes it's about where you go to where there's a little bit less noise, where there's a little bit you have a little bit of an advantage if you're an early mover. So I love what you're talking about there, Matt, and possibly giving folks something to think about for their 2020 budget that maybe they haven't been planning on, and something that they might want to test and experiment with, in addition to all the other great things that you mentioned here on managing your organic YouTube channel, dispelling some of the myths on targeting that you can and can't do with YouTube, and different ways to think about measurement when it comes to your YouTube advertising. Matt, if anybody listening to this wants to ask any follow-up questions, which I'm assuming there are probably going to be a few folks, or they just want to stay connected with you, or they want to learn more about what you and the team at Pixability are up to, what's the best way for them to reach out or follow up with you?
Yeah, sure. I'm happy to connect with any of your listeners on LinkedIn, but you can also email me directly at mduffy, that's MDUFFY @pixability.com. Happy to chat with you about your own B2B challenges, as we're all in this together as B2B marketers. And also obviously happy to give you thoughts on how Pixability might be able to help you if need be.
I love it, Matt. I love that you close with that line of being all in this together. It's been one of our rallying cries here around Sweetfish lately, is that we can go further, faster together than we can go alone. So thank you again for a great conversation today and sharing a ton of value with listeners, man. I really appreciate it.
No worries, Logan. It was great chatting with you.
Hey everybody, Logan with Sweetfish here. If you're a regular listener of B2B Growth, you know that I'm one of the co-hosts of this show, but you may not know that I also head up the sales team here at Sweetfish. So for those of you in sales or sales ops, I wanted to take a second to share something that's made us insanely more efficient lately. Our team has been using LeadIQ for the past few months, and what used to take us 4 hours gathering contact data now takes us only 1. We're 75% more efficient, we're able to move faster with outbound prospecting, and organizing our campaigns is so much easier than before. I'd highly suggest you guys check out LeadIQ as well. You can check them out at leadiq.com. That's LEADIQ.com.